What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast here on Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope you all are having a great week. As soon as I hit the button, all of a sudden, now I feel like I may have to sneeze. That's so just kind of how it goes. Welcome. We're going to hang out and chat about some stuff. I heard about some stuff this week that I didn't really like, but, there's also not a lot you can do about it. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. All of our live streams are ad free. So if you want to support the channel with a super chat or a super thanks or a little sticker or whatever, you can do that. You can also go to DylanTalksTone.com and you can buy parts from us because that's what our real job is, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute. We also have a bunch of links in the description for other companies and businesses that support this channel through affiliate links and stuff. So if you use those links, some of the stuff's not even guitar related. Some of it's all kinds of other fun stuff. So, even like Best Buy, stuff like that. So they support us through affiliate programs. So if you use those links, it helps out the channel, Amazon, etc. So check that stuff out. So we're going to talk about what happens when big companies bully small ones. And the first example I'm going to give you that made me come up with the idea for this subject is Gibson, obviously, because they do it a bunch, but it's not just them. Okay. So I became aware last week. Now I know the whole story, but I didn't know the whole story. I know the beginning of the story. Let me say that. My friend Tony, who owns a company called Zither Music Company, he makes these really cool stands. You see me use them. I've got them right here in the back. The guitars that are behind me are on Zither stands. I absolutely love them. They're cool. They they kind of swing, but they don't tip over. Your dog doesn't knock them over. I don't know what the design is, but they're really neat and they look really nice, kind of like furniture. They do look like furniture. They're really nice. They got a bunch of varieties of them for basses, for guitars, for etc. This is not sponsored or anything. I just really, really like his stuff. I bought one of his stands and then he gave me one. And I've been using them for years. I think they're fantastic. Well, he makes them for Taylor guitars, and for a long time he made them for Gibson, and Gibson stole his design and is making their own. I believe PRS is making something similar. So I heard this and I was like, is this true or is he still doing it? So I actually texted him because, like I said, we're friends. And I was like, hey, what's up with this? Did they actually steal your design? And he's like, yep, they did. They did. He said, but honestly, we've got them on quality. They're not as good as ours. The fit, their finishes and the way they make them and stuff is better. He's like, so, there's no competition really. He's like, it doesn't bother us. It sucks, but it's not, he's like, we're plenty busy. It's not like it's killing us or anything. But it does suck that they did that, which is sort of it just sucks. Now, many people will jump onto Gibson because they're the most publicized company that does this, right? They'll go after a small company, or they'll steal a design, or they'll go after a small company for intellectual property, or they'll steal a design from somebody else. Now, I don't know what the intellectual property status of these guitar stands is, okay? So what that means, and we should be very clear about this, if there is no design, if there's no patent in process or in effect on that product, then it's perfectly in the rights of another company to copy that design. Okay. So Gibson's actually not wrong, or not illegal. They're not doing anything bad, but it's kind of crappy. Okay. So, and I don't know that for sure. I'm not sure I don't think he has that design patented. I don't know that for sure though. So don't quote me on that. But it's kind of crappy, right? It's a little slimy that you would steal someone else's design if it was not patented. However, that is why it's very important to protect yourself and your intellectual property when you have a business. Super important. You've heard me say in the past many times that if somebody copies Gibson and they go after intellectual property rights, then I believe they should do it because that's how they stay in business, right? So there's a couple different sides of this thing. It probably nothing was done wrong. It's just kind of crappy. And it's what happens. It's what happens in business. If somebody with a bigger advertising budget came along than me with, something that I was doing and blew it up, then that's what would happen. It's just kind of how business is. It's just the fact that we heard it about Gibson and I heard it about a friend of mine. That makes it extra crappy, right? Because I'm kind of connected to it. And people will want to jump in the comments and Gibson this and Gibson that, whatever. They're being a business. They're doing what they're supposed to do, actually. Okay. Fender is just as bad. I'm going to tell you that right now. Fender is just as bad, and so is PRS. All of these companies are all doing the same thing. Gibson, you hear about it more because I don't know why, but you hear about it more. But all the other companies have lawyers on their payroll. They're all doing the exact same stuff. Okay. Everybody's doing it. And I've heard of other stuff. There's some stuff I probably am not allowed to, I don't want to say I'm not allowed to, but I don't have enough detail, I guess, to reliably say. I've heard some things about a couple other brands, but I don't have enough information to make it public and to, get behind it. So I won't say it, but, it's just one of those things. It just happens. And thank you to one of you who pointed this out to me last week and made me look into it because, I did not know this. This is something that happened. Like I said, I knew the beginning of the story, but I didn't know the end of it. How about that? And so thank you to those of you that pay attention to what we talk about and do that. So, we got to be really careful though. We don't want to get into a situation where, we're getting upset about intellectual property because that's the law. So if Gibson goes after Dean, that's the law. If it just is. Intellectual property is very, very important, at least in this country. So I don't care about those kind of things. But when a big company, tries to come up with it happens all the time, comes up with another idea that somebody else had, blah, blah, blah. That's a tough thing. So here's a question. And I guess I'd like to get a conversation going with you all about it. What do you think? For those of you, many of you do not have small business experience. You just work for somebody, it's no big deal. And maybe some of you do have small business experience. Okay. Maybe some of you have a small business service business, like an electrician, for example, or, some other sort of service. I know we have a pool guy in here. For example, others of you may have a product to sell. Maybe you do kind of like what I do and you make a thing and you sell it, right? So you're constantly worried about keeping going as a small business. So what do? We don't have marketing budget of Gibson. We don't have marketing budget of Fender, right? But we have cool products. We make neat stuff, right? So in this genre, especially in the guitar related world, how do we keep going with nothing but our personal reputations and our products? That's a question, right? Get in the comments and get in the chat over here and talk and let me know what you think. What do you look for when you're shopping around, especially small businesses? When it comes to this, like where you buy your pedals, where you buy your cables, where you buy your whatever. Now, here's a question. This is a follow-up question to it. We can just talk about all this stuff kind of mixed together, no in particular order. But here's a question. Sometimes you have to let me set the question up. Sometimes you have to buy something from a big company, right? It's kind of sketchy to buy a car from a small company because you're like, you need the track record, you need the service, right? You need the infrastructure of that company till you can go to the dealer and get the car fixed, et cetera, right? You need that kind of thing. So sometimes you have to go to the big company, right? Other times, I think like power tools, right? Like DeWalt, Milwaukee. I don't know anybody who's making some kind of like, homemade cordless drill, like small business that you're going to buy and really use it, right? Then the other extreme is like the artisan maker products, right? Like, I have it a lot in the fountain pen world where we have, it's one guy in his garage, he's turning pens. Same thing with knives, like custom knives, stuff like that. And then, I guess maybe we fall into that, but I kind of feel like we don't anymore because we're a little bit bigger. But there's the one pedal at a time guy, right? There's the one guitar at a time guy. There's the one set of pickups and you got to wait 6 months for them guy, right? Like, so super artisan. And then there's the in between. And I kind of call this like the next step of that, where it's the well-executed small business. Somebody who makes a high quality product, has been doing it for a long time. You can depend on them, but they're not as big as Fender or anybody. Like, we're not as big as Seymour Duncan or even Lawler or even anybody else. We're pretty small. But you can depend on us, right? If you get a bad pickup, we'll make you a new one. We take care of our customers, right? We very dependable. We make a good product. It's above artisan, but it's not huge. Texas Toast Guitars is another one. You can always count on their product. Their guitars are very good and they're very, very consistent. But they're not big. They don't make 5,000 guitars a year, right? But they make more than 2 or 5 a year, right? Like, they make some guitars, but they're still a very small business. Just, a couple of guys doing it. So there's that in between. So the question, I guess, kind of after setting all that up, what makes you buy certain things from certain sizes of businesses? What motivates you? Okay, I want, and this might not be the same question, the same answer for everybody, right? Or for everything. I want a Gibson and I want a Fender, but I also want a Texas Toast guitar. And there's a company out there that I want that's even smaller than that I'd like to have a guitar from. I would like to have, a production pocket knife, and I would like to have in knife world, they call it mid-tech. Like, this is a mid-tech knife. This is a production pocket knife, but it's like super high end and kind of almost handmade. And then they have, like the custom stuff. We have that in the same here, right? Like, so you'll have Analog Man, where it's just a few people in a garage, more or less, kind of, not really, but there's just a few people actually making the pedals right there, right? And then you've got somebody like Wampler, who is outsourcing the actual manufacturing, but he still does all of the design, right? And then you've got somebody big like Robert Keeley, who has a ton of resources all in-house. He's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and verticalized his manufacturing. And then you've got somebody really big like Boss, right? Who knows where those things, they just come out of I don't know. There's some pedal spaceship that they just keep popping out of. So all those different sizes. So yeah, what do you think? What motivates you to buy from a business my size or a business bigger than mine? Like, let's say Lawler or Seymour Duncan is being the biggest, from Fender to a smaller company like, I don't know, something smaller, Anderson or, somebody like that. And then coming down to, somebody like Texas Toast, right? Or Lucky Dog. I think Fender beats up the builders who use the Fender headstock shapes. You need a license to use a Fender headstock shape. Yeah, that is a thing. On the Tele one, at least. Yep, on the Tele one. I thought last week you had not heard the latest about Gibson and Zither. I hadn't, and I talked to him day before yesterday. Let's see. Let me go down here to the bottom and see what everybody says. Knowing that something is made by one dude is amazing. Supporting small businesses where you can kind of get to know the builder is very cool. Well, I appreciate that. I like that a lot because that's obviously what we do. And that's why we do a podcast like this. That's why we do the video content that we do, because we hang out with you, right? Like, we're in the you asked that question, right? Or made that comment right then, and we talked about it right now. I love doing that. And I think that's really important. When I think about what are the things that we can do as small businesses to survive, I think that's probably the most important thing, is to keep the face, right? To not be a big faceless business that has no connection to the end user, to the person to the musician who's actually creating the music. I think that's really neat. When you buy a set of pickups from us, you can put it in your guitar. You can make a video and you can upload it to the Facebook group, and I'll see it. And everybody else who's bought pickups lately, or maybe is thinking about buying pickups, will see it too. And that's really neat, right? Like that's a. What about Luthier made acoustics by one dude? Sorry if this has already been covered. I just connected. Yeah, I think that's great. I think acoustic stuff is neat. I look for unique designs, something different than the masses. Quality is almost always better with small companies, and who doesn't like helping the little man out? I disagree on the quality thing. You have to be careful with small companies. I have seen this, and maybe it's because I have a small business, I get sort of picky about this. I don't like things to feel homemade. If it's something that should feel like handmade, like it should feel handmade, then I want it to feel handmade. You know, I've got a knife over there that's got like a hand carved handle, and that's really cool, right? Like I want that to feel that way, right? But this knife is supposed to be like super, 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 super machined, and like the machining and the quality of it and everything is supposed to be above, right? So I don't want it to feel handmade. I want it to feel perfect. The neck on a guitar, I don't want it to feel handmade. I will tell you, the first time I hadn't even met the Texas Toast guys, and the first time I played a Texas Toast guitar, I was like, holy crap. This is the first time in a long time that I've felt a handmade instrument made from scratch from a block of wood that did not feel like it was made in somebody's basement. So I don't always like handmade. And what's interesting is the people that complain about quality control think they like handmade, but they don't. Handmade is handmade. There will be stuff that looks and feels handmade, right? And the more you put a person into it, the more you're going to feel that, which is fine as long as you're okay with it. So when you get a Gibson and the binding isn't 100% perfectly scraped, or there is, I don't know, it doesn't matter. I can look at a Gibson, a brand new one, even a really good one, and be like, I can tell what was done by hand and what wasn't. And I like that. But you have to be really balanced about how you feel about quality, for sure. They should at least pay a royalty fee. So they may not need to pay a royalty fee because he might have not protected his intellectual property properly. If he had a patent on it, and depending on the kind of patent too, that's another thing. There's utility, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of patents. And if he did not have patent protection on that product, then there's nothing really, no recourse for it. And sometimes things are so general already that it's hard to patent them. This also happens in trademarks, which is different. So trademarks are different. So for example, the shape of a Telecaster is trademark, even though there isn't one. The shape of a Gibson Les Paul is a trademark. That's not a patent. That's a trademark. There's a difference. And the way you legally protect that stuff is different as well, because it's a completely different set of laws. A lot of people don't realize that there's a difference between patents, trademarks, and copyrights. And it's all three completely separate sets of laws. Some of it sort of overlaps in function, but it's not the same. And so you have to understand how to protect the product or the mark or the creation that you have created. And so if you've not done that correctly, then you have no recourse. Somebody can steal your design and they can use it. And yeah, okay, it's kind of crappy of them, but it's not illegal and they don't owe anybody any money. It's something that's very important for guitar players to understand, because guitar players get real weird and really upset about Gibson like suing Dean over a shape. Well, they should have used a different shape. They shouldn't have stole a shape, period. I mean, that stuff drives me nuts. Now, I know people that have gotten, have had Fender go after them for a peghead shape, and I look at their peghead shape and I'm like, that's not even close. Why is Fender going after them? Just because they're being jerks. So, yeah. People get upset about quote unquote big companies going after the little guys, but the way copyright and patent law often works, if you don't defend your rights, you can be found to have forfeited them. Yes, that is correct. So like especially patents are a little different because they have a year base to them, like how many years? 20, I think, for most types. But like trademarks for guitar shapes and stuff, you have to constantly defend that, right? So Larry DiMarzio, every time he sees somebody with a double cream bobbin, he has a lawyer who is also a friend of mine. I actually know that guy too. We've had him on the podcast before. And he will fight that every time, but he has to be able to afford to do that. As Zundefoilge, sorry about your name, mentioned, if he does not defend that, if he just lets it sit and lets somebody attack his trademark, then his trademark can quote unquote expire because he doesn't defend it. So there's a whole bunch of law to it. I mean, it's, you know, if you have a brand, you got to exercise diligence to protect your brand. That is absolutely true. Yep. Unfortunately, it requires expense. And you're right. That's the thing. So now getting kind of into the more positive side of it, because this is where I wanted to take this. I didn't want to talk about, you know, the fact that Gibson sucks all day, because I don't think they do. I think they're probably doing the right thing. It sucks that they did that, but I don't typically jump on that bandwagon of Gibson sucks, because first of all, the guitars are great. Second of all, they're just defending their business. Stealing the stands, that's a little whack, but you know, somebody else is stealing something too. So the question is, what makes you decide whether you're going to buy another Gibson, another Fender, another Schecter, or find something like a Texas Toast? What makes you decide whether you're going to buy Seymour Duncan, a DiMarzio, something smaller like Lawler, or something like me, like a Dylan, or even there's smaller guys than me. So, you know, what, or how about your pedals? Like, you know, is it just, this is what I want, so this is what I'm going to get? Or is there some sort of, you know, like, well, the new Boss thing came out, so I want the new Boss thing, but also the new Keeley thing came out, so I want the new Keeley thing, and the new Analog Man thing came out, and so I want that. So you just bought from 3 different sizes of company. Or maybe a new Seymour Duncan pickup comes out and you like the sound of whatever artist it's based on, and then I come out with a pickup that's got a cool paisley cover and you buy that one too. And it doesn't really matter. It's just they've just got the stuff that you want when you want it, so you just buy it. Or is there more thought that goes into it for you? That's what I'm getting at. Let's see. Personal relationships are big. You won me over. It only took 2 years. Thanks. I appreciate that. So can DiMarzio not afford to fight Gibson with their double cream bobbins, or do you think they made an agreement since Gibsons had double creams covered in the 50s and 60s? I don't know the answer to that question because I'm not familiar enough with it. I know that's going on right now, but I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with it. So how does copyright work with pickups? They all have to fit into the same size hole in the guitar. So how do they get around infringing on another's designs? So that's not copyright. That would be patent. And it's not really patentable because it's not, it has to be, what's the easiest way to say this without getting too into weeds and then being wrong? Just to keep it general enough, to keep it simple enough for our conversation, things need to be specific enough that they deserve to be patented, if that makes sense, right? So like you have to have a specific design that works. So, okay, this knife right here actually is a good example. It's just still in my hand. This is a Chris Reeves Benza, and this right here was the very first frame lock on a pocket knife. So now the frame bends over and that's how the knife locks, right? That's the very first one. Patent expired 20 years later. Now everybody uses this design. Actually, I think Chris Reeve did not patent this design. I think he just said, just use it. Glock is an excellent example. That design of the the Glock platform that everybody knows, 20 years. Once that expired, now Shadow Systems, now everybody's making them. But that's because this design does a specific thing, functions a certain way. And then if you look at a different kind of pocket knife, like an old lockback with a little button on the back, that's functionally different. Like it works differently. So each design can be patented, right? Where when you have a pickup, that's, you know, I make a humbucker, you make a humbucker, the wind count's a little different, but it's not functionally different. So you wouldn't really be able to patent it. That's kind of the thing. Small business seems to need a niche, and when the owner rep can explain the benefits, it makes me want to buy the product. You know, that's a thing that's interesting because, you know, okay, so this is where it makes it tough for like pickups and stuff, because the benefits are so subjective that it's not like I can say, you know, my light bulb lasts longer than your light bulb. My vacuum cleaner sucks longer than your vacuum cleaner sucks. Or whatever, you know, whatever it is. This speaker is louder than this one. You know, this car is faster than this one. This, like, right? With a pickup, it's like, if you don't like the way my pickups sound, then there's no reason to buy it. It's a very interesting business to be in. And I mean, I knew it when I started, but, and so I guess the only way we can do that is I just tell you the story of how the pickup came about, because, we don't really have like, except, I mean, our P90s are better than anybody else's, but even that is subjective. Like I know a couple people, I can think of like maybe 2 people in the last 11 years that are like, nah, I like a different pickup better because they like something that I don't like, which is fine. That's totally fine. But it's a tough one, right? Subjective stuff but the good thing about it is we're just having fun. Like I sell fun. I sell creativity. And I like that. That makes it fun. Let's see. That's more of a trade secret thing. I guess. Yeah, wine counts and that kind of stuff. I don't tell anybody all that. I don't tell anybody the super specific stuff. We never talk about wine counts. We don't talk about, people always ask me like, well, where do you get your parts? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. That took me 11 years and counting. I mean, I'm always looking for better parts sources. You know, I'll tell you, go to Mojotone, go to StewMac. They make great stuff. Like, you know, honestly, if I was going to start making pickups right now, and I know people don't like to hear this, but it is a you get what you pay for thing. And people, if they want to get into a hobby, they need to not be cheap about it. Like, don't be cheap. Like, enjoy your hobby and don't shortchange your experience by buying cheap garbage. So, buy pickup kits from StewMac. Link in the description. Helps channel out, helps you out, and the stuff you get will be good. The stuff you get from Mojotone, half and half iffy. I used to buy almost all of my flat work from Mojotone, and that's what made me buy a laser because it was garbage. But StewMac's amazing. They just don't have a structure for somebody like me who orders, you know, a lot. You know, once you start making, you know, 50, 75, 100 pickups a month, then you really have to start worrying, right, about cost. If you want to try it, right? If you want to like learn how to make a Strat pickup and you want to try it and kind of maybe buy one of those Shatton winders that you build yourself at home for a couple $100 and you're doing that, just buy the stuff from StewMac. It's good. It will all fit. It comes together in a kit. Like it all works. Like then you don't have to worry about any of it. And you make a couple and you enjoy that. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, now that I'm making 10 of these, now this StewMac stuff's kind of expensive. Then you start looking. But right at the beginning, when you're just playing around, just buy the StewMac stuff. What do you think of a passive mic into an electric guitar in combo with a humbucker or whatever. I don't see the point in that because the electric guitar doesn't make any sound. There's no, I mean, what are you going to, basically, I'll tell you what you hear. This is what you hear. Those super annoying people on Instagram who leave their microphones on while they're recording, and you hear the sound of the string making noise at the same time as it's coming through whatever amp or whatever. I hate that. So that's what it would sound like. Now, can you defend against China that just don't give about patent and copyright? I mean, I think it's just something, I wouldn't say defend against it, and I wouldn't say get into a big political conversation about it. But what I would say, because I have to do this on a daily and weekly basis, is you just have to, because I have to import some stuff. I have to. There's no choice. Because of their possession of basically almost all the cobalt in the world, magnets come from there. You don't have really a choice. So, all my magnets come from there. I got a gal named Maggie, and I call her, and she sends me magnets. Now, am I discussing pickup designs and stuff? Nope. Have I had pickup designs get stolen by people in China? Yep. But there's nothing you can do about it. I don't whine about that because I do what I can to support the businesses and the people that I can, the best of my ability. But I don't pick my battles in such a way that cost myself or you an amount of money that would make you not want the stuff. Because I think there's a reality to that. I was just thinking about that yesterday because somebody commented on one of my videos about pots, and they're like, now I wish we would have a pot company that made pots in the United States. And I'm like, you wouldn't buy them. The reality is you would not buy them, because if you're buying, so we have pots right now, our push-pull pots, our CTS ones are good. The real good ones are $10. If those were made in the United States, it'd be like $45. Would you spend $45 for a pot for your guitar? That's a question you got to ask yourself, right? And then if Fender wanted to use them, then the price of that guitar would go up exponentially. The price of that guitar would go up at least $150. So those are all things that you have to think about. You know what I mean? So, you do the best you can to get the products that you want from the places that you want, from the countries that make them the best and do, that service you the best as a business owner. I like to have as much American-made stuff as possible, but there's a couple of realities in the world. And one is there are some other countries that make some really good stuff. Germany, for example, makes some stuff that we buy. And let's see who else. Korea, South, not North. I was buying guitar necks from Croatia for a long time, which was really weird because the maple was Canadian, but the necks were made in Croatia. That was really weird. I was buying those from there for a while. That was a long time ago. I don't buy those anymore, but you just find people that make the best stuff. That's the important part. Do you have a recommendation on a method to direct mount pickups, especially specifically humbuckers? Directly drill into the body, obviously. Some people use a threaded insert. What's the best for sustainability or adjustability? I'll tell you what it is. And I don't have an affiliate link for this or anything, but FU Tone makes that little brass plate that goes in the bottom, and it works really good. I have a couple sets of those around here that he gave me. But those are really cool. Check out FU Tone. They have that mounting thing. I can't remember what it's called, but it's really cool. It works really good and it's adjustable. Have you tried Philadelphia Luthier Supply? Yeah, I get a couple things from there. We get a couple things from there every once in a while, and I actually use them as kind of a backup. If there's another, because they're expensive. They're really expensive. Again, for you, they're not. For, buying a few at a time, they're fine. But if I need 100 of something, they're expensive. So, if I've had it happen before where we're the little brass screws that we use to attach the bobbins to humbucker base plates, those were out everywhere and except for there, and I bought them there, stuff like that, but not typically. I recently started watching your videos from the start, and I'm writing down questions so I can go on future live streams. Dude, that's a great idea. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would imagine that finding your production design on Temu would be the worst nightmare. No, not really. I don't care. Because, just like Tony Meeks was saying about his stands, Gibson's making crappy ones. They're making crappy versions of the real thing. And that's what all that stuff is. All that stuff is such garbage. There's some okay stuff. I've been doing some research, because we're making all of our own merch and stuff now. And we have another website too, just for laser products. And so, I'm looking at coasters and blah, blah, blah. If you need any of that stuff for your business or whatever, let me know. Cause it's another little side thing we got going, but customized laser engraved anything really, basically, just to keep my laser busy. But that stuff, a lot of that stuff comes from places like that, and it's a crapshoot, man. So it doesn't bother me because I know we make awesome stuff. I could see Fender putting $45 pots in a master built or maybe even a team built custom shop. They won't though. When it comes to the point where the price of your supplies becomes too expensive for you to make a profit off your work, if it's too much, it may end up pricing yourself out of the market. I don't worry about that too much because there's always, so I'll tell you what happens. You could worry about that stuff and you could worry yourself into oblivion, right? Cause you could just be like, oh, well, this went up. Now what am I going to do? Stuff's been going up for the last 5 years. We've not raised our prices once. And well, I think we did 3 years ago. I think everything went up $10. But it's been a long time. I'll tell you right now that copper, the pickup wire, just went up 40%. That one hurts. Do I worry about it? I get bummed out about it when I have to write the check or when I have to pay the bill. But I don't really worry about it because the way I get around it is to find efficiency in what we do. So if something's costing me more money, I'm going to find a way to get that back. And I'm going to always go internally first before I go externally, meaning if I will always go to something I'm doing. Okay, I'm doing this and it's costing me money and I can stop doing this and it won't affect the product, because that's the one thing. You can't cheap out on the product. Otherwise the product is worse. So the product will never be worse. We will never cut corners on the product to save money, but we will find efficiencies in our processes. And we've been really good at doing that. And sometimes you have to spend money to do that. Buying a laser, that's a great example. Buying a laser this year was one of the biggest things for me because I was throwing away 40% of the flat work we bought from other companies because it was garbage. Now I have 100% quality control over that. And I can buy the sheets, 4x8 sheets of that stuff. And so that has now introduced an efficiency into my process that makes it to where I can make up for some of the price increases in other areas. So, because I don't want to go externally, meaning to you, and raise prices. I don't want to internally make changes that causes the product to be worse, but we still need to make money. So it's all a thing, right? It's all a thing. These are all things that we have to think about. The most important thing, though, is to have these conversations with you every week so that you keep buying the stuff and that we're friends, right? Like that's the way I feel about it. This is to me the most important. I can teach you how to make a pickup, and I can show you, anybody can make a pickup really. But I've said this a bunch lately that Seymour Duncan doesn't do this. Larry DiMarzio doesn't do this. So coming and hanging out with you guys every week is kind of, to me, the most important part. I'm now looking to buy that Zitty stand just because of what Gibson did. I won't get it from Gibson. Yeah, use my Amazon link and buy it down there. They're really nice, man. They come in a bunch of different wood finishes too. I have walnut ones. Well, yeah, I'm like right in the way, so you can't see it. It's like right behind me. But yeah, they're awesome. They work really, really well. They're awesome for pictures because the stand like disappears behind the guitar, and so it's like it's floating in midair. They're awesome. They're super cool. Does that not also give you faster turnaround time because of having the laser? So yeah, and actually that's true. So cycle time has come down a lot. Our backlog of orders, we still have some funny ones that will take a long time, and we'll have, various things like that. But for the most part, yes, our cycle times have come way down. I still try when we're really busy. I still try to hover around 2 weeks. That's at the most. So we try to stay less than 2 weeks. And I think for handmade, made to order products, that's pretty stinking cool. I hear so many horror stories from people about like, I ordered pickups from some dude and it took him like 9 months to make them. And I'm like, oh man, I cannot imagine running a business like that. Like it takes longer than 2 weeks and it starts to bug me. So, let's see. Yeah. Anyway, now this is fun. The intent of the legal processes behind all of this is to maintain general fairness. Nothing is perfect and things don't always go how we think they should. Hopefully it's mostly fair. Yeah, that's it. And honestly, what it's really trying to do is just kind of more bust the most malicious stuff, right? And it's possible that they didn't do it maliciously. I mean, really? Okay, let's go back to the laser thing. So I used to spend, I'll tell you right now, I don't know, $800 a month on flat work for Teles and Strats, right? Just the paper fiberboard from Mojotone. So does that mean that I stole anything from them by buying my own laser and now making all of my stuff in-house? So now that's money I took out of their pocket. I took that money out of somebody else's pocket. Granted, I made it to where I didn't have to take it out of your pocket when you buy pickups from me. But you understand what I'm saying. So somebody at Gibson was like, we have a shop and can be made out of scraps for X amount of dollars, and we could just make this out of leftover stuff and we wouldn't need to buy them. And somebody's probably like, oh let's do that. Let's just do that without any malicious thought of we're going to steal this, what's the guy on The Simpsons? You know what I mean? We're going to steal this, like, excellent. You know what I mean? Like that probably was not the goal. They were just had a meeting and they're like, I can make these. No big deal. Cause that's what I do. Whenever I see something, I'm like, oh, that cost X amount of dollars. Oh, I could make that. And then I won't have to buy it anymore. So all of our own flat work. I'm working on, cross your fingers for me. I'm working on bringing back our Tele 90s and our humbucker size P90s because parts where it got so expensive and out of tolerance that I couldn't do it anymore. So I'm like, all right, well, let me experiment with making my own. And we'll bring back a product that we don't currently have because of this type of a situation. Yeah. Yeah, super fun. Super fun to think about all this. I was just eyeing that FU tone option. You just sold me on it. Dude, you should get it. It's cool. And he's really cool. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast before too. Yeah, I think you should get those. That'd be awesome. Well, cool, you guys. This is a fun conversation. I appreciate everybody participating today, and turning it into, I want to turn this into a positive thing. I think a lot of people will look at what goes on with legal stuff, and they'll always, think that somebody's a bad guy. But I don't look at life like that. I think you would just get too stressed out and too in a bind with your own self to think about things like that. I would rather get up in the morning and be like, what can I make today that people will like? That's where I'm going to spend my brain time. You know what I mean? You see some of these custom pickups that we've got coming out. We just sent out today. In fact, I'll post it on Instagram at Dylan Talks Tone right as soon as we get done. Every pickup we sent out today, I sent out a bunch of orders. And every pickup we sent out today had something custom done. Because people are starting to realize, like, oh, wait, you mean like for an extra $10, I can have my mom's face etched on there or whatever. Like, that's pretty neat. Like, I think that's really cool. Somebody actually they emailed me and they're like, hey, can I come up with my own original design for the top of a humbucker sized Enduro? And I'm like, yeah, email it over. So he emails it over. I paid him I charged him the custom pickup price, it's like, I don't know, it ended up being 10 or $15 extra. Took me a few minutes to put it together, but it came out really nice. It was really cool. Hey, buddy. It was really neat. And we made some pearl top P90s. I got to do some mesh ones tomorrow. We made some mesh top slant 6s today. We did some rifle filigree matte finish enduros today. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff. That's where I'd rather spend all my brain power, right? Instead of stressing about what I think a company should have done to me or for me or about me or whatever. I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to keep sharing stuff with you and hope you buy it. But I'm going to do it in a strategic way that you know that I enjoy doing this for you. I think that's a really important thing. We don't just make pickups here. Like we're selling songs, right? There's a song in your guitar. You just got to get it out. And if I help you get that out, then we did our thing. If I got you through, your week at work because you could come home and jam on your new P90 or whatever, that makes me happy. So yeah, super cool, man. Let's see. Oh, we got a guitar maker in here. Let's see. He says that the answer is customization and innovation. Yeah, I mean that's what you got to do. You got to find out ways. What's interesting about the innovation part is it doesn't have to be ridiculous. It can just be a little tweak. It could be just something that is like, oh, that's really neat. I kind of like that. I think that's a good way to think. So yeah, man. Well, hey, you guys, this has been fun. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate everything you do. And we will chat with you in the next one.